Hi, and welcome to this first video lesson about string bending in country music. In this video I'm going to show you what I believe is the correct technique first, and then I'll give you a little exercise to improve the intonation of the bend. If this is the first time you're approaching the bending technique, just make sure you do it on an electric guitar with very light strings, something like 9 to 42 should be perfect. Let's begin! Start by using the third finger, which is the most common finger for bending. I'm on fret 12 of the B string. Place your second finger right behind it so it helps with the bending. And keep both fingers arched, not flat, arched. The index is there too, but it's not really pressing on any strings. It's just resting in a flat position, not arched. And its function is to mute the adjacent strings. Not so much for the bending, but mostly for the release. Listen what happens without the index in place. As you release, you get the other strings ringing. Now with the index, nothing. So if you don't use the index in this way, you'll have to use the picking hand to do the muting, and I just don't think that's always the best option. So we get into this position where the fingers are all together with no space in between. Now, the motion to bend the strings comes from the rotation of the wrist and not from the fingers. In fact, there shouldn't be any movement coming from the fingers like that, okay? Just wrist. Also, when you're bending, make sure you don't move the guitar neck or the headstock. If the neck is moving, it's because you're pushing it. And it's much easier if you keep the neck in the same position and you just move the strings. The position of the thumb should be quite high on the neck, but not like this. So we're playing this note. Now let's bend it up a semitone. A semitone is the equivalent of 1 fret, so this is the note we're aiming for. You can check it every now and then. Practice that for a bit and then try a whole tone up. A whole tone bend is also called full bend and is the equivalent of 2 frets, so this is the note we're aiming for. Also, try to bend in a very mechanical way. We don't want a slow bend like this. We want a pretty quick one, very mechanical. In country guitar, the bending technique is often used to emulate pedal steel guitar. Pedal steel players bend the strings by pushing pedals, and that produces a very mechanical sound. So a country guitarist will tend to go very often for that mechanical sound, and that's also why devices such as the B bender or the G benders are very common in this style. If you don't know what the B or G benders are, I did a little video where I show what it is, and you'll find it on my website. To play the bend mechanically, you have to bend very quickly and avoid spending time performing the actual movement. Just try not to tense up. It's a mechanical movement, but it's still relaxed. So let's practice something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And make sure you do it with all the fingers. So the fourth, 1, 2, 3, 4. The second, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the index, which is very hard, but it's very common in country music. Another small suggestion is to try avoiding the release of the bends. I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't play any release so far. And the reason for that is that I do believe that it's better to separate the bending technique from the release. Being able to separate each movement will simply give you more control, and as a consequence of that, a better technique. To avoid getting the release of the note sounding, just place the pick on the string, ready to pick the next note. It looks a little bit more complicated than it actually is, so just give it a go. Once you are a bit more familiar with the bending technique, you might want to start practicing the pre-bending technique. A pre-bend is when you silently bend the string and then pick it. It's quite often followed by a release, but it's not always the case. Pre-bends are much more difficult than normal bends. The reason is you can't hear the pitch of the note while you're bending, so it's a little bit like bending in the dark. This is a simple exercise for practicing pre-bends. Pre-bend the whole tone up and then release. Like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And practice it with all the fingers. So the fourth, the second, and of course the first. Okay, so just to recap, keep the fingers together, bend from the wrist and don't move the headstock. Once you've got the basic motions going on, the next thing to work on is the intonation of the bends. To do that, we're just going to use a simple tune, which is Happy Birthday, and we're going to play it using the bending technique. Now, the tune is so famous that you'll hear it straight away if you're not playing it correctly, because it will sound more like a drunk birthday than a happy one. If you're on YouTube, you can just click on the description box down here and you'll find a link that will take you to my website where you'll find the tablature. We're going to play Happy Birthday on one string only, just on the B string, because it's a simple string to bend and it's a very common string to bend. You're going to find semitone, whole tone and 1.5 bends, and also no release, so you can really develop the control on the technique. But first, let me just play it for you. So as I said, we are on the B string. The first lick starts on the 6th fret, pick it twice, then bend it up a whole tone, then again the 6th, then the 10th fret, bend it up a semitone, followed by the 10th again. And this is how it sounds. The second lick starts in the same way as before, so 6, 6, bend, 6, then move up on the 11th fret and bend it up a whole tone, then 11th again, and this is how it goes. Lick 3 starts on the 6th fret twice, then we go right up on the 15th fret and we bend it up a tone and a half, so 3 frets, then 15 again, 11th, 8, and we bend it up a whole tone, then 8 again. So this is lick 3. The last lick starts on the 15th fret, bend it up a semitone, pick it again while still bent, then play again the 15th, 11th, bend up a whole tone, and finish off the 11th. And this is the last lick. Once you can play Happy Birthday with the bending technique, try and play it using the pre-bending technique. Basically, you do the same thing, just using pre-bends instead of bends. Now, this should give you enough information to develop a very good foundation. Once you're done with this video, you can go to my website and check out the other videos on string bending. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Take care and I'll see you soon.